Assalamu alaikum, dear participants, dear viewers, to this session of our Islam Study Circle. We will begin with our Quranic verse and discuss the hadiths later on, and then inshallah Bible verse. I'd like to also tell you that we'll have a short session today because of my engagements. Some of the engagements are related to my travel, so we will have to have a short session. So, starting off with the Quranic verse, as you can see, it's being displayed on your screens. It says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. Believers, seek help from steadfastness and from the prayer. Indeed, God is with those who are steadfast. This is a very pertinent verse of the Quran, which relates to our everyday understanding, which relates to our everyday dealings and the way we actually conduct ourselves. Uh, it is, of course, a common understanding, it's a common experience that all of us pass through good times in our life, and we also pass through straitened circumstances, circumstances which really bother us, which disappoint us, which frustrate us, and we are made to follow through various hardships. For example, the loss of a dear person, the loss of our parent, it could be a loss of a child or a spouse. Similarly, we have these straitened circumstances when we are pushed financially. And this economic crunch, this financial crunch, of course, is something which really takes its toll. And we know that there are so many people today who are living below the poverty line, and hence they are passing through such circumstances that people who might be very close to them, but still not going undergoing to the same situation, might not even realize. So it is all in all such circumstances that the Almighty has actually blessed us and really guided us through this verse when it says, "Ya ayyuhallazina amanu sta'inu bis-sabri was-salat." It says that if you are passing through straitened circumstances, if you're passing through trying circumstances, if the situation is tough, then seek the help of the Almighty through steadfastness and through the prayer. As far as steadfastness is concerned, we of course know that the word sabr in Arabic does not merely mean it does not connote its meaning that we have in Urdu, but it has an element of resoluteness and perseverance added to it. So it's not just out of being frustrated that a person is required to show patience. He is actually required to be steadfast, to persevere, to be resolute, and think that whatever is happening by the will of the Almighty. And if he is being made to pass through certain circumstances, then these circumstances are meant to make him a better person. We know that whenever we pass through these circumstances and whenever the going gets tough, the thing which really helps us is that we show this steadfastness in the wake of these troubles and these bothers. And when we come out of these troubles and bothers, we are a better person. We are a person who has gone through a tough time in life. But with this toughness, our own toughness increases. And of course, we also need to realize that it's an opportunity to come closer to the Almighty. Whenever we are pushed, whenever we are in trying circumstances, we remember God much more. So let's take it as a challenge that instead of thinking these circumstances to be disadvantageous to us, let us turn them into our own advantage by actually challenging them, by actually facing them, by taking them head on and using them to our advantage. And the best advantage is that these circumstances really make us closer to God. They give us this opportunity that when we are passing through hardships, we tend to remember God much more than when we are in good circumstances. So this is something that we have to keep in mind, that the trials that we pass through are in themselves, they are meant to improve us. They are at times meant to be to bring more comfort to us in our future life. Also, we have to realize that life itself is a constant trial. The Almighty has mentioned this in most of His scriptures, at various other places, that life basically is an opportunity for us to counter this trial, to undergo this trial, and earn a lot of reward from the Almighty. So this trial at times is through trying circumstances, and at times this trial is through good circumstances. Passing through good and bad circumstances is something that we all experience. So, in good circumstances, we have to show gratitude to the Almighty. When we are passing through straitened circumstances, we have to show patience to the Almighty, because this is how we are meant to behave. Behavior, in our own terminology, is something which actually makes us what we are. If we are thankful to God for His favors, and if we show patience on His trials and the miseries that we come across, then we are a person who has really accessed the true meaning of life. And if we think that life is just a bunch of troubles, it's a bunch of miseries, and the Almighty perhaps is someone who is unjust because He has made to pass us through such evil circumstances, then this is not the correct philosophy that we have been taught and understood through various scriptures. So we have to understand that trials and tribulations, they are a part of the scheme of God. And if we have to succeed in this scheme, we have to show this tremendous patience in the wake of these circumstances. The other thing which is mentioned in this verse is that we have to seek help of the Almighty through the prayer as well. So this is another thing, that besides being steadfast, we have to pray before the Almighty. So whenever we feel this discomfort in ourselves, whenever we feel this botheration, this disappointment, this frustration, let us bow down in prostration before the Almighty. Let us talk to Him. Let us uh, let Him know the problems that we are. Of course, He already knows, but expressing ourselves in a manner in which we have this humility before us, when our foreheads are touching the ground and we are praying to Him and asking Him for His help, this really gives us a lot of comfort and a lot of assurance. Our troubles might not go away very soon, but we will have that will, that determination to fight evil. We will have this confidence that we can face things, and instead of being bogged down, in spite of these trying circumstances, we'll live this life to its full. We'll live this life to its hilt. We'll contribute to the best of our abilities. We will do what best we can do for the betterment of humanity, in spite of being pushed. And we also must realize, my dear viewers, that it's not only just us who may be passing through these circumstances. All humanity, in some form or the other, is passing through these circumstances in which there are miseries, there are bothers, there are worries. And when we look at other people, what we realize is that there are a lot of things that other people face which we do not face. So we have to look to our right and left. We have to look towards people around us. We have to find people around us, because there are so many people who are worse off than us, that once we get to know them, once we are able to identify them, we actually uh, thank God even more profusely, because we express this fact that we are people who have been blessed by the Almighty in many other ways, in spite of being tried and tested in some of these ways. And remember what the says at the very end. It says, "Inna Allaha ma'as sabirin," that God is with the resolute, God is with the steadfast. In other words, if you feel this frustration, if you feel this discomfort, and we invoke the help of the Almighty by praying to Him and by being steadfast, we are given these glad tidings that God is with these steadfast people. So we have to realize that being steadfast is something which gives us this nearness of the Almighty. And let me also quote you something from the life of the Holy Prophet and from other prophets as well. That whenever they felt this discomfort, whenever they felt that botheration was getting the better of them, they would immediately pray to the Almighty and ask for His help. And as I said, this talking to God, this connecting to God, makes gives us that assurance, gives us that resoluteness, that confidence that we can face any trial in life. But as I said, the trials might not go away very soon, but we will be given that spirit, that inner motivation, that come what may, we will convert this misery to our own advantage, convert these trying circumstances to our own advantage by coming even more close to God. Now, let us move on to the next part of our study circle, and this is the Hadith of the day. And this Hadith, dear viewers, has been taken from the Al Jami Sahih of Imam Muslim, and its words are: عن عثمان بن عفان قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من توضأ فأحسن الوضوء خرجت خطاياه من جسده حتى تخرج من تحت أظفاره. Usman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu stated that God's messenger said, a person who does wudu in a thorough manner, his sins will leave his body to the extent that they will even depart from under his fingernails. So, dear viewers, as you can see, that these are extremely bonus glad tidings which are given to us in the form of this hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it tells us that every act of worship that we do is something which is really, really beneficial for us because it washes our sins. And of course, the reference here is to sins that we do in a manner that they do not infringe upon the rights of other people. They are referred to as sayyi'at or small sins by the Quran. So the Almighty has given us this bonus that if we do our wuzu, our ceremonial ablution before the prayer, and we do it in a thorough manner, the Almighty says that this is something which will make us which will make us our account to be clearer than before, and our sins will be deleted. And if, as I said, the sins referred to here are the ones which are minor sins, and of course, which relate to our rights regarding the Almighty. As far as other blemishes and mistakes and sins are concerned, which we commit against other people, then the Quran is very clear. And as the Prophet has also explained this, that unless the person who we wrong, unless the person who we are unjust to, unless he or she forgives us, the Almighty is not going to forgive that person because we have actually usurped or infringed upon his rights. And look what the hadith goes on to say, that such is the all-embracing nature of this forgiveness from the Almighty, that we feel that even the smallest of our sins and the most pervasive of them will be forgiven when the words are that حَتَّى تَخْرُجَ مِنْ تَحْتِ أَصْفَارِهِ, that they will even depart from under our fingernails or his fingernails. So which the implication is that even things which might be on the periphery and they might be slightly far off, even those sins will be forgiven by the Almighty, even if they are as small as something which comes under our fingernail. So this particular expression expresses the all-embracing nature of this forgiveness from the Almighty, and it also gives us this incentive that if we offer the prayer and we offer the prayer in a manner that it is really done such that the preparation for the prayer, and we know that the preparation for the prayer is wuzu, is the ceremonial ablution. If we do it in a thorough manner, then how the Almighty will reward us. And also evident from this statement of the Prophet, dear viewers, is the fact that whenever we do something for the Almighty, it has to be done in a thorough manner. It should not be done in a perfunctory manner just for the sake of it, just by going through the motions of it. But on the other hand, it has to be done in a way in which we are concentrating on what we are doing, in which we are doing it with an elaborate way, in a very, very pervasive way. So at times we do wuzu and we don't realize that we do it in a very slothy manner, in a manner in which we are at times not washing our body parts properly, and we don't realize that we are doing this. So the thing that the Prophet is stressing here is that the worship rituals, that whatever we do, and of course from this we can also realize it's not just the wuzu which needs this thoroughness from us. Everything that we do, we have to be thorough in that. We have to take pains to do that, because this is what makes us a high achiever. We are high achievers in so many other areas of life. So the Almighty wants us to be a high achiever in all aspects of our life. In religion, when we do something, when we are kind to someone, we have to be really kind to him as far as possible. When we are offering the prayer, when we are observing the fast or doing Hajj or doing charity, all of these worship rituals have to be in as exemplary and as thorough a manner that we can do, because this is how the Almighty wants us. And if we do things the way they are done, we will also benefit the way we should benefit from them, because the optimum benefit of a worship ritual can only be acquired if we offer that worship ritual in an optimum way. So this is how the Almighty wants us to behave, and this is how the Prophet has instructed us. And we know that the Prophet, whenever he would do certain worship rituals, or when he would undertake various worship rituals, he would be very thorough and very, very observant in that. He would concentrate very hard and setting this example before all of his companions that we have to do things in a very, very attentive way, in a way in which the things really stands out. So let me now go on to the third part of our study circle. And this, of course, now we're going to study a Bible verse of the day. And this has been taken, dear viewers, from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24, verses 19 to 21. And this, I'm going to just read out this word for you, these verses for you. And the caption that I've given them is caring for the needy. So here it goes. When you get in the grain from your field, if some of the grain has been dropped by chance in the field, do not go back and get it, but let it be for the man from a strange land, the child without a father, and the widow, so that the blessing of the Lord your God may be on all the work of your hands. When you are shaking the fruit from your olive trees, do not go over the branches a second time. Let some be for the man from a strange land, the child without a father, and the widow. When you are pulling the grapes from your vines, do not take up those which have been dropped. Let them be there for the man from a strange land, the child without a father, and the widow. So it's so beautifully explained. It's just like simply like poetry. It moves our hearts and stirs our souls the way these words have come out from the mouth of the prophet Moses. Of course, these are translations, but in spite of being translations, such is their potent effect that we really, really enjoy reading these verses. So, as we can clearly see that the prophet Moses wants us that we should take care of the people who are deprived. And one of the manifestations of this is that when we go to our fields for harvest, he has given this example that when we shake the tree and bring down the things that its fruits. So if there are some fruits which are left over in the branches of if you collect them, whatever has fallen on the ground, and you leave some of them, you forget some of them, then don't go back and acquire them again, because let these be for the homeless, for the widow, for the orphan, for the person who is a traveler. And it's a small act of kindness, but of course it reflects significantly on our conduct. It shows that in spite of our needs, at times we do care for people around us, and it is something which is really should be a boost for all of us. This teaching of the prophet Moses is something which really touches the heart. That even in small things in which we might not be very careful, we have to show this care, this sympathy, this compassion for those deprived. I mean, collecting fruit from our orchards is something that many of us who have these orchards do often. They have employed people for this task and for this purpose. But look what the prophets of God tell us, that when you collect this fruit, if some of the fruit remains on the ground or on the branches, let it be, because the child without a father, the widow, the lady without a husband, the traveler or a stranger from some other land, he might pass by, he might chance by, and if he sees these things, he can collect them, he can use them. So it's such a moving thing. It's such a stirring thing to us that all of us need to understand that although these are small acts of kindness, although these are things which might not reflect as a very huge virtue, but let us remember that we have to keep collecting small virtues. Even small virtues count. They are maybe a drop in the ocean, but only these drops make an ocean. So let us be a collector of these drops. Let us try to collect as many drops as we can in our empty bucket. And inshallah, soon that bucket will get full if we pay attention to these small acts of kindness. And for this, as the Prophet Moses has explained in such a beautiful way, we have to look for these chances. We have to look for opportunities in which we can do these small acts of kindness. So we need to realize that it's just not the thing that he has explained us here. There are many other things that we can do as small acts of kindness. This is like a pointer. It's like something which indicates to us that don't forget that even small things count, small virtues count, these small drops in the ocean make your bucket full. And the more we are concerned in filling our bucket, the more the Almighty will give us this tawfiq, this urge to find opportunities in which we can do good to others, in which we can be benefactors towards others, in which we can be compassionate individuals. And I always point this out that compassion is something which lies at the base of all good virtues. So let us be more compassionate than before. Let us make a fresh commitment to ourselves that we shall be more compassionate, more considerate, more sympathetic to all those around us, especially those who are junior to us, especially those who are the deprived elements of the society who might be around us, and they deserve this special attention, this special focus. So, with these words, dear viewers, I come to an end of this third session. Also, as I was telling you that I am traveling and would not be able to spare a lot of time, but we still have about a couple of minutes left. So, if you have any questions, you can just raise your hand. I'm going to unmute your mic, and we'll have to end in the next 8 minutes or so that I have to attend a meeting and I can go there. So one of the questions that has been posed is that as far as charity is concerned, can zakat or charity or these things can be given to non-Muslims also? So the answer is yes, absolutely. So as far as charity is concerned, as far as zakat is concerned, as far as helping out other people is concerned, it has to be regardless of faith. It is basically a humanitarian act. Every person who is a human being, whether an atheist or a Gnostic, whether a Hindu or a Muslim or a Jew or a Sikh or a Christian, he could belong to any denomination. As far as giving zakat or charity is concerned, or sadaqat is concerned, there is absolutely no reason to make a distinction that zakat cannot be given to non-Muslims. In fact, let me also remind you that in the times of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and later on in the times of the rightly guided caliphate, we know that the treasury was this public Baitul Mal, this public treasury would be the one in which funds from everywhere would be collected, and then they would be dispersed for all kinds of things, which included non-Muslims as well. And one of the reasons why, because of which people think that giving zakat to non-Muslims is forbidden is a hadith. But before I explain that hadith, let me also point out this fact that as far as the Quran is concerned, wherever it has mentioned the heads of zakat, and the most comprehensive statement of these heads is verse 60 of Surah Tawbah, the 9th surah. You can look it up and you can see that no distinction has been made between a Muslim or a non-Muslim. The verse states that إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, that all these sadaqat and these charities are for the needy and the poor, without qualifying that these needy and poor actually belong to Muslims. So as far as the hadith is concerned, this hadith is actually something which has been the cause of our jurists making this view that, or forming this opinion that only zakat can be given to cannot be given to non-Muslims. So the words of this hadith actually are somewhat like this: that تُؤْخَذُ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ وَتُرَدُّ إِلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ, which means that this zakat shall be taken, this zakat sum will be taken from their rich and be returned to their poor. So the word there is actually understood to mean, because it is said that this has been taken from their rich, so the word there actually refers to Muslims. So therefore, it is taken from the Muslims and it is returned back to the Muslims. Whereas if you study the whole context of the hadith and also collate all the relevant ahadith, you will come to know that the situation is entirely different. This is something which the mutasaddiq, in the times of the Prophet, the tax collectors were called the mutasaddiq. And like today, it was not that the public would go and give their taxes or their charity. It was, on the other hand, the government officials who would come and collect these taxes or this zakat and charity from people and then disperse them. So what they are being told is that if we are coming and collecting charity from you and zakat from you, so it's not, don't think that we are going to keep it in our pockets. So a mutasaddiq is actually telling these people from whom he's collecting this zakat that I'm not going to put this money in my pockets. it shall be taken from your rich people and it shall be spent on you people. So they're not, this money is not going to go in my pockets. It's going to be returned to your own benefit, for your own charity, for your own well-being and welfare. And of course, this, when these words were being uttered, the connotation was that they will be given to those amongst you who are before us. So therefore, here the connotation of the word there is not Muslims, it is the society itself. So it will be taken from the society and given back to the society. We are not going to pocket the money that you're giving us. So as I said, the Mutasaddiq was reassuring people, was trying to comfort them that this money is not going to go in our pockets, it's going to the public treasury and then being returned to you. So when it says return to you or return to them, the reference here is to the society and not to the Muslim population. Unfortunately, this hadith has been interpreted in a way that we think that zakat cannot be given to non-Muslims, which, as I said, is a big misconception. Zakat and sadaqat and charity, everything that you can spend for the cause of God, for the cause of the Almighty, has to be governed by this principle that who is the most needy? Where can I spend my zakat? Which is the best way? And regardless of religion, regardless of race, regardless of anything else, it has to be simply the need of that person that we must keep before us at all circumstances. The need of the person is the real thing and not the religion of that person. So viewers, with these words, I beg leave from you. As I said, I have to attend certain meetings. I am also traveling. So inshallah, we will see each other again next Saturday on the same time. And till then, it is Khuda Hafiz and goodbye.